I remember as a freshman in college, I was sitting in a sociology course. And in that course, the professor said, speaking as a sociologist should, not describing what should be the case, but what is the case, that religion is really like, 4 blind men and an elephant. So one of the blind men would walk up to the elephant and touch the trunk of the elephant and say, well, this feels like a snake. Yeah. And then another one of the men would walk up to the elephant and touch the big, solid, coarse leg of the elephant and feel around it and say, well, this feels like a big tree. Snake, you idiot. Snake. It's not a snake. It's a tree, clearly. And then another guy would fly in, woo-hoo, from the top, and he'd jump on top of the elephant, and he would grab the big ears, those big floppy ears of the elephant, and he would say, either this is a very large bat or a very small pterodactyl. And then another one of the men would walk around, maybe on the periphery, and not be able to get near the elephant or smell the elephant, and he's out there, and he's saying, there's no animal. Give me a break. You guys are nuts. All you believers in an elephant. And my professor said to me, well, this is a good way to explain religion. We're all fighting with each other. Maybe even the atheist is out there. He can't come in contact with the elephant. And other people are saying it's a snake or a tree or a bat, but they're all trying to describe the same being. Something about that bothered me, but I didn't know what. You know what I mean? Like something is just itching. It's bugging you. You don't know really what it is, but something is bothering you. It wasn't until years later that I became a Christian. And it dawned on me. This illustration doesn't prove that all religions are true or equally valid. It proves that all religions are equally false. It isn't a snake. It's an elephant. It isn't a tree. It's an elephant. It isn't a small pterodactyl. It isn't nothing. It's an elephant. That's what's being described here. So, of all the 5,000 religions on earth, either one of them is true or none of them are. Moreover, the storyteller, in this case, the Hindu sage who came up with this story, the storyteller claims to know the truth. Who is it in the story that knows it's about an elephant and not a bat, pterodactyl, tree, or nothing? The storyteller. The storyteller is the one who is claiming the very privileges that he or she denies in all the other world religions. All the other world religions are wrong, and I see perfectly. You're all blind, but I see quite well. What this shows us is that we need revelation. I actually really like this illustration, but for a different reason from my professor. The reason is this, that what this shows is when humans, like you and I, are groping around in the dark, this is what we come up with. We come up with a tree or a bat or a pterodactyl or nothing. When we can't see, that's what we come up with. In reality, what we need is to have our eyes opened, to be able to see spiritual reality for what it is. That is the reason for which Jesus came. He said, I am the light of the world. What did he do in John 9 to that man? That man said, I was blind, but now I see. Finally, this shows why we would need to share the truth with others. Could you imagine tiptoeing around everyone else there, not wanting to give your opinion? Snake, you say. Snake? Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Oh, a bat. Yeah, a very large bat. That makes sense. Sure. Nothing. Yeah, you're probably right. It's nothing. It's nothing that we're looking at. No, if you were there, you would need to do your best to convince people, hey, why don't you try and move around the elephant and feel over here? Telling you it's an elephant. No, it's a snake. Why does it have 4 legs? Huh? The person off in the corner, there's nothing here. Oh, yes, there is. Here, hold my hand. I'll take you right over here. I'll show you. You can feel it for yourself. If you were to sit there silently and very tolerantly, saying everyone's right, think of what that would take to stand there and not say a word while everyone there is groping in the dark. Of course, I'm alluding to a view which is referred to as relativism. Relativism. Think about all these common tropes and mantras that you hear today in our culture. All religions teach the same things. All religions teach the same things. Partially true. Partially true. World religions teach similarities. They have similar teachings, but that doesn't make them the same. You might not be with me. Check this out. All right, I'm thinking of a man. The man is an American man. He is a famous man. He was born in 1961. He's 6 foot tall, 175 pounds, and he has salt and pepper hair. Who am I thinking of? Huh? George Clooney? Close. Barack Obama. American, famous, born in 1961, 6 foot tall, 175 pounds, salt and pepper hair. No. These two men, have similarities with each other, but they're not the same man. So to say and just whitewash all religions into saying, well, they're all the same, I agree they're similar in certain respects, but that does not mean that they're the same. What about this statement? Doesn't everyone have the right to believe what they want? Of course they do. Of course they do. God doesn't force us to believe anything. However, while we are entitled to our own opinions and our own personal views, we are not entitled to our own facts. There was a study done in 2018 where they surveyed 8,200 people. And in the study, they interviewed particularly 18 to 24-year-olds, and they asked them this question: do you believe that the world is round? To which 34% said they were, quote, skeptical, have doubts, or were not sure. Am I not right to have my own opinions? You certainly are. Yeah. You have your own right to believe whatever you want. But that doesn't mean that what you believe is true. That's why some scientists said these people have never seen a moon that ever looks like this. Flat Earth looking at the shadow on the moon. Took a second there. Yeah, when we apply this view to any other realm of knowledge, academia, well, I thought Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1992. That's my truth. Or law. You know, that sign said 45 miles an hour, but I read it as 85 miles an hour. Or any other realm, medicine, anything you look at, we would say, no, there is the truth. There is the truth that we're trying to determine, not my truth. So, here's my question. Why would we apply such a defunct, obviously false perspective that we would never apply in any other area of life to the most important area of life? The big questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going? Is there a God? Is there life after death? Does God want to know us? So when it comes to that question, religion, spirituality, we say, well, everyone's equally valid. I guess everyone's truth is their own. We would never use that epistemology in any other area of life except the most important area. No, I don't buy it. What about this statement? There is no universal objective truth. There is no universal objective truth. Now, this seems to be saying that what I believe is false. Yeah, that would be the word, false. And it seems to be saying that what you believe is true. Yeah, that would be the term, true. You believe it's true, and you believe that what I believe is false. So here's my question. Do you believe that that statement applies universally and objectively to all people, or just to yourself? Well, I believe that it's universal and objective to all people. Well, then you believe in universal objective truth. That's what I believe. No, I mean it's just my own personal truth. Well, if it's just your personal truth, then why should anyone listen to you? Right? I remember a friend of mine was talking to a guy who was espousing this view, and he said, but I'm just not saying it right. No, what I'm saying is this, and he rephrased it. And finally, my friend said to him, it's not that you're not saying it right. It's that it isn't right. It's not true, what you're describing. What about this statement? It's intolerant to tell someone that they're wrong. Honestly, often true. Boy, do I hate that when Christians are intolerant, rude, overbearing, insensitive. Hate to see that. So, why are we throwing out the baby with the proverbial bathwater, though? Like, I've seen some Christians be intolerant and rude. That doesn't mean I need to be that way. I've seen some parents that are, abusive to their kids. That doesn't mean I need to be an abusive parent. So the same thing is true here. Here's something to think about. Let me put this on your mind. How can we tolerate someone with whom we fundamentally agree? The only way to tolerate someone is if you disagree with them. That is tolerance. Yeah, imagine we were both voting for the same presidential candidate, and we agree with the same party line, blue or red, I don't care, okay? We all agree with every issue. And I say, man, I really tolerate you, brother. I think you misspoke. What you meant to say was, I really agree with you, brother. We need to disagree in order to show the virtue of tolerance. In order to say, man, I really disagree with you, but I love you anyhow. You need to have convictions of your own, convictions which are not for sale. What about who are you to say that your view is true and every other view is false? We're all allowed to say this. Anybody's allowed to say this. I'm not saying I'm not the only one or you're the only one. Anybody's allowed to have their view. Since when is it just a small collection of people that get to have their view? We all get to have our view. Who's allowed to say this? Whoever has the best reasons. That's who. And we get to share about these in the marketplace of ideas and discuss this. Whatever happened to this? Discussions, dialogue. I was talking to a young agnostic recently, and we were having a pretty interesting back and forth, and he said the Gospels were evolved over time, and God is, long story, not important. Anyways, we got to the end of a 30-minute conversation, and I said to him, so-and-so, I'm really glad that we got to talk about this in a way that was peaceful, interesting, and really I applaud you for sharing your views, because most people in our world don't talk about the most important questions in life. Isn't that weird? He's an agnostic. He said, yeah, that's weird. Like, if this is true, like there is an afterlife and God's real, that's the most important thing to talk about. And I'm like, preach it, brother. You know what I mean? Yes, I agree. Totally agree with that. We're all allowed to share. And when I spoke, he listened. And when he spoke, I listened. And we didn't talk past each other. And it was a wonderful conversation. All right, what we're talking about here is really a postmodern view of truth. Under a postmodern view, they would say that there's all these individual people groups around the globe. Different tribes, different ethnicities, different nation states, different cultures and societies and groups. And above all of this are their different views of ultimate reality. So under a postmodern view, these different cultures look out at the universe and they come to different perspectives. There's one God, there are many gods. God is knowable, God cannot be known. God is personal, God is impersonal. And all of these different views are the product of society and culture trying to explain the nature of ultimate reality. Under a postmodern view, people from one group, like let's say this group on the far left, is getting up and they're taking their particular view and they're going around to other groups and they're just stomping on those other groups, right? Especially that purple group. They're just really letting them have it there, all right? Yeah, all right. So they're taking their view and they're not just saying it's our narrative. They're saying it's a meta-narrative. So postmodernity is really the rejection of a meta-narrative that doesn't just dictate our culture. It dictates all cultures. And so to take your view to another culture is really an act of violence, where you're trying to get other people just to turn into the Borg, just to assimilate or die. Resistance is futile, and you have to just fall in line, and you all have to ascribe to our view. There's another view. The Bible's view is actually very similar, but at its very core, totally different. It also believes in a meta-narrative, but it includes God, an infinite knower, the God who was and is and always will be, self-existent. And he knows the meta-narrative. He knows all. And God gives this meta-narrative to everyone. Every single culture gets this meta-narrative. And if one culture rejects it, or if another culture accepts it, that doesn't change the truth. The idea is that we're all trying to adhere to what is actually real and true. Here's what's beautiful about the Christian worldview. Jesus' message is fundamentally predicated upon love. Its foundation is forgiveness. Knowing this meta-narrative doesn't make me a conqueror, doesn't make me an imperialist, doesn't make me violent. The more I believe the message, the more humble it makes me. Now you say, well, wait a minute, there have been Christians who've been imperialists and violent. Yeah, of course. In other news, the world is round, right? I know that. What I'm saying is, those who believe this message, the more they believe it, it has the function of producing love and humility in the person. Knowing this meta-narrative doesn't make me better than other people. It actually means that I'm worse than other people. It means that I'm sinful, that I'm fallen. The creator of everything, whatever he says, would apply to everyone. Here is what I would like to ask. How could you possibly know that God has not spoken to humanity? How do you know there isn't an infinite knower, an infinite personal God who slices into history? You know that? How do you know that? Here's some questions to consider here. Which worldview is true? That's what we're after, truth. Which worldview will bring humility and love into your life? Like, when you look at the worldviews out in our culture today, this isn't just a buffet where I say, well, I like that one and I don't like that one. No, what is actually true? What's real? And then, which worldview is going to bring peace and love into the world? Which is going to bring love, compassion, humility, and healing to our world that desperately needs it? We can't just say, well, I'm just going to stand back and be agnostic and not share my views about anything. Okay, you can do that. Meanwhile, another worldview is going to come crashing through, just like the postmodernists say. In an imperialistic way, someone is going to come in and they're going to take over. Which worldview do you want people to adhere to? A worldview of violence? A worldview of materialism? A worldview of selfishness? A worldview of racism? Or a worldview that brings love and forgiveness and humility to all people who adhere to it? All right, check out this video here.
Deep into the Amazon jungle, where members of an American-based evangelical group are engaged in something of a culture war. The Christians say the Indian tribes there are killing their own babies. Critics say the missionaries are using those charges as an excuse to convert the tribes and destroy their ancient cultures. They fly us over a group of Indians, naked and painted red.
The government won't let us go in right now.
We are not allowed to land here because these missionaries are in a bitter dispute with the Brazilian government, which is accusing them of cynical and illegal attempts to convert Indian tribes to Christianity, destroying their ancient cultures in the process. At the center of the fight is this little girl.
This is my daughter. She's from the Suraha tribe, and she's a survivor.
Her name is Hakani. She's been adopted by these missionaries who say her tribe tried to kill her because she was born disabled.
What they said about her is that she didn't have a soul, a child soul. She had a kind of monkey soul.
The missionaries say infanticide happens all the time among Amazonian Indians. The Brazilian government says the missionaries are deliberately exaggerating the extent of the infanticide problem in order to justify converting Indians. When we land in this jungle village, one of the first things we see is this girl in a Jesus t-shirt. And we meet a member of Youth with a Mission who openly admits to evangelizing.
Yes. I would lie if I say, no, I don't talk about Jesus.
And she says she has no intention of stopping.
How dare you? Speaking about Jesus to these people, there's no such thing as a monkey soul. They bury these kids. That's what they do. That's how they kill them. Infant exposure because they're disabled, because they have a monkey soul. You know what we call that? False. That's a false worldview, and it's doing damage to real people's lives. Can't you see that? Oh, no, just to say, oh, we wouldn't want to proselytize and bring Jesus to these people. This is harming those people. What about that little girl getting raised thinking that she's subhuman with a monkey soul? What the hell? No. We've got a worldview here that we are sitting on. It's not only true, I mean, it's got the best evidence for it of any worldview, but it's also good. It is good for the world.